I'm going to give everybody a few more minutes to come on in, get your libation, so that way we can go ahead and start this conversation on our particular live today. Hey, Lindsay, it is great to see you again. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. We are about to get started, so I'm going to give everybody a few more minutes to come on in because we have a really tough conversation that we really need to be talking about, and it's been on my mind and my heart for quite a while now, for some years now. And I'm just now starting to get to this place where I feel like I want to say what I want to say. And as a result of this particular conversation, we must be willing to not only have the conversations necessary, but we also must be willing to really listen and take in what's being said. Don't just listen to respond, listen to what's being said. I will actually I kind of am going to get off the mic here in just a little bit, just so that I can get everybody a chance to come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in, so that way we can have our discussion now. As everybody is coming on in, I want to share with you a particular gem that I have found over the holidays and all that good stuff since we last spoke. And that is, we as a community have to really start having these kitchen table talk about these politically charged issues, and reparation just happens to be one of them. So let me share my screen with you all, because the group that is trying to get these changes in, I follow the lady that founded this group. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you all right now. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Okay. So this is the group called the American Descendants of Slavery. This is the group that is advocating on behalf of those of us that were a part of the cattle slavery that took place down here in the American South. Now, I am from Arkansas, and slavery, I think, was very prevalent in the 1800s and the over 400 years here in this state as well. So we have a lot of work to do for tonight, and before I invite you guys on here to really say what you have to say, let me say what I'm gonna say about this. In order to address reparation, we really need to talk about the cleanup that needs to happen in our community. Um, and when I say the cleanup, I'm talking about we really need to address certain policies that have been put in place before we can even get to the reparations. And I think that I understand the need for reparations because I obviously am Black, and I do come from that and I do have that background. my family lived in a town, in a small town in Arkansas, which was a plantation at the time. It is no longer a plantation, but when it was founded as a plantation. Um, so let's talk about the changes that needs to happen. The first thing we need to do is we really need to start talking about letting getting rid of the 1994 crime bill. And before I can do that, let me just share my screen with you all so that way we can get something of the sort happening. So let me share my screen with you all. Give me just a second here. Okay. This crime bill was sponsored and written by our current president. So you can see why our people have a bit of a distrust with President Biden. Because this is what exploded the prison population, and we have private prisons. We are literally locking up young men for having possession of marijuana or a blunt or whatever. So this bill is what really kind of put it on steroids, the drug war, as it was foretold. Now, this bill is not the only bill that has been on the books for many years, but this is the one that we can revert back to because this is the one that really messed up a lot of our young black men. And this is part of the reason why we don't have a lot of fathers in our community. So before we can address said crime bill, we need to address, before we can address reparations, we need to address this. So I'm gonna invite y'all up here, and I want y'all to kind of tell me your thoughts on what y'all think, and I'm gonna give y'all the link to all of this. Okay, let's do this thing, okay? There's the link. So I want y'all to go ahead and bring yourselves up here so that way we can have a really uh, honest discussion about these policy changes. Reparation is something that needs to happen, but until we're able to get there, we need to address all of these past um, Jim Crow laws that have been racist against black people. And it's not just Republican versus Democrat. It's the entire system of white people oppressing our community for over 400 years. So there's the link. Go ahead and come on up and we'll have you guys have your talk, and I'll probably ask some questions along the way. So here's the thing with the 1994 crime bill. This is, for me, I think the bill that really kind of put it on steroids and align and allow the war on crime to go even further. That totaled in a lot of police brutality, where we have a lot of stand your ground policies, and particularly red states. We also have them in blue states as well. So it is Jim Crow all the way around. And until we can really address those Jim Crow policies, reparation needs to be put on hold. That's my personal feelings on it. And I feel like we can't really talk about reparation until we talk about the Jim Crow policies and repealing those policies. And we need a fighter in Congress to do that work. We also need a fighter at the state and local level just as well. Congress cannot really do too much unless we are able to do this at the local and state level. So we really need to be passing um, policies and laws that will economically help not just our communities but other minority communities as well. But since I'm in this community, so Lindsay, let me ask you: do you think reparation should be something we need to be having a discussion on, or do you think that this is a mute point? Because I believe, when you ask the question, what should our reparation be at this point, we struggle to do good with our income tax returns. I agree. So hit the link. I put the link in the chat, so you should be able to see what that is. Hit the link and come on up and give me your thoughts. But here's what I think. I think reparation, I'm gonna be honest, it's a bit of a distraction from the real policies that have been affecting our community. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be talked about, but it needs to be put on pause. Exactly, Lindsay. Exactly. It is deserved, but it is a mute point. It is not something that our community really needs to be talking about until we're able to address the policies before Jim Crow. I get that we need to have these discussions, but Congress is not going to push this because this is not on their legislative agenda. The Congressional Black Caucus, what have they done for Black people? What policies have they pushed for Black people? Were they focused on the 1994 crime bill that Joe Biden not only helped write, but he actually was the one that put it to a freaking vote? Let's not forget Hillary Clinton herself, the so-called darling of the Democratic Party, also said that that Black men needed to be healed. Like we're dogs. Like we needed to be taken out. Like we're a menace on society. I can't. I can't. It's just too much. It's too much. So What are some of the other Jim Crow policies that have been put in place since this law came into effect? We know the stand your ground policy. That's one that I find to be quite strange. Um, the stop and frisk policy. That policy up in New York, they are they still have that policy on the book. You just don't hear about it, but it's there. So we can't really go to Congress and say we need you to do this for us when we ourselves are not even trying to protect our own community. We have a lot of so-called fathers that are not willing to be fathered. I'm sorry, that's just a reality. I mean, sex is supposed to be fun. This is the problem. What you just said, that right there, that is the central problem. That is the central problem. That is the central problem. Lindsay said, as a people, it is difficult to discuss policy and administration when most don't even know who runs their damn school board or who their mayor is. You know what, Lindsay? You need to come on up here, child, and just spew your damn knowledge, because you preaching the word tonight, child. We are not as knowledgeable on even our own local government. That was the crazy part. The crazy thing is we don't care enough about our local politics, and yet we want other folks that look like us to do the work that we've been doing. I want to show y'all something. This is what this group is wanting the administration to do. It says here, President Biden must direct Congress to propose and deliver to his desk a federal-led administrative reparation package that identifies a defined start date with no fixed ending date. President Biden must commit to seeing the act faithfully executed. At minimum, the reparation package should prioritize cash payment totaling $20 trillion to American descendants of slavery, together with targeted policies and protection. The redistributive measures will be ongoing and must remain in effect until, at the very least, the wealth gap between white Americans and Otis is closed. Let me show y'all who's running this group. Miss Yvette Carnell. If y'all don't know who this lady is this lady is the policy. Um, she was the legislative aide to Representative Barbara Boxer, I think is her name. And this lady, I used to watch the show all the time, and I kind of check in and check out. But she has an hour-long program, close to two-hour-long program on YouTube, where she talks about reparation and she talks about all of these policies that she wants us Black people to have, and all of this. Those are admirable goals to have. But like I said in my last live, let me show y'all something. Let me show y'all what I'm focused on. Oh, by the way, this is my organization. This is the Morris Youth Foundation. This is my organization, and this is what the work that I'm doing with this organization. As you guys are well aware, I have a disability, and that disability has led me to a whole lot of opportunities. So I have my own organization, and this is it. It's called the Morris Youth Foundation. You can the link is right here, so I'm gonna send you guys the link right here. But um, exactly, Lindsay. Exactly. But let me show you guys something that should really let you guys know the kind of person I am. This is why I'm so different from most people. Okay, let me go to the community blog here. Click on. Okay, this is my policy paper that I created about a year ago. Actually, 2 years ago. And it has been updated since March 17th, 2022. That's my birthday, I think, March 17th. I will be right there. That's the website. You guys can go and check us out there if you want. And I also have a donation link that you guys can go to. Let me pull that up right now. Okay, here we go. Hey, Lindsay, last time you asked me if I had a donation link and all that good stuff. Let me go ahead and send you that donation link. So that way you have that. This is the donation link to my organization, and you have the link to my main organization as well. Okay, so with that being said, this is my policy paper. This is what I had been working on for about previous 6 months to a year up to this point when this was published. This is the work that needs to be done. Now, let me show you what I do. I go point by point explaining why we need changes to those policies. Now, this is my state government. Okay, this is my local state government. Okay, so I am writing to the to the governor, the state legislator, the who else? The governor, the state legislator, the basically everybody that's important. That's all about policy. So this is what this is all about. Okay, but I go point by point explaining why certain segments of the Medicaid program that I'm a part of needs to be changed. And I have this point by point, and I explain what the issue is. I explain why this is a problem, and I explain how we can better be served by gathering through another program, or by getting another, or by advocating for another program that is accessible and readily able for us, so that we can really make a difference in our daily lives without having to be managed or provided for and all that good stuff. So I am point by point going through each and every. I ask what is the consumer directed program. I explain what that is, and I explain why what the state did was ineffective. I explain what's the difference between them. I explain why this is important. I go through point by point and explain each policy, why my policy proposals need to be necessary. Okay? But this is for the disabled community. This is for my community. Okay? We actually have our own legislative um, purposes. We have our own lobbying. We have our own way of doing things. But that's because our community is just as part of the government as the government is a part of us. So we literally have to pay attention to what the federal, state, and local government is doing at all times. You don't get that with Black people. You don't. If anything, you get a certain segment of the Black community that's not pushing for anything. You get a certain segment of the Black community, like this group, that wants to advocate for a certain policy, and then you have the rich and famous and the powerful Black folks, and then you have the poor Black folks. Okay, you have certain segments of the community that's, and each of these individual sides are not at all agreeing with each other. So I just have a question for Miss Yvette. Miss Yvette, this is not going to work. Not right now. We have a lot of Jim Crow policies that need to be undone. So my question to you is, what are you thinking? So let me ask you something, Lindsay. Do you think reparation will change anything? That's a part of the question that I have. Do you think reparation is going to change anything? Do you think this will be something that we actually need to change? Because if so, how? What do you think step by step needs to happen in order for Black folks to really get the changes that they say they want? Okay, so you said hell no. Okay, so why not? Y'all, Lindsay said, "Oh hell no." Mm-mm. Equality isn't always money. Just look at the books of Black church, and 9 times out of 10, the math ain't. Girl, what you said. She also said this. I forgot to show y'all this. She also said this. She also said it's an extremely unrealistic act. We'd be better off with clean criminal records and perfect credit. You hear what I say? You hear what I say, girl. You hear what the hell I say. I I understand Miss Carnell's point. Yeah, I understand Miss Carnell's point. But I also know realistically, this is not going to be something that Black people is going to push for because this isn't something that is on our mind right now. Hold on, I'll be right back. Hold on. But yeah, Linda, you kind of explained to me if you think Miss Yvette, why you believe this is an unrealistic ask, or why you think this isn't that reparation isn't going to change anything for us. I'll be right back. Okay. So, Lindsay, why? Okay, so Lindsay, why not money? I mean, why not? Why why say don't give us money? Okay, so what you're saying is, let me go back to this. Okay, so what you're basically saying is we don't need money. Okay? We need food. We money is not gonna fix our problem, is what you're saying. But I would kind of disagree because I feel like we can do a lot with that money. We can build our roads in our community to back. We can actually make some sort of capital investment into our community without having to feel like we're not doing, having to feel like we're having to push overtime for money. So there is that side of it. But you're saying as long as we as a people have health care, that is true. But how are you gonna get? And see, that's the other thing when it comes to the $20 trillion as far as cash payment is concerned. That's the other thing too. It's not just dispenser food, health care. Okay, so do you think that we need to have because I believe this, I think that this country needs to have a a health care that doesn't have a cost to it, if that makes any sense. So, in other words, we should not have to come out of cost. We should not have to come out of our pocket for healthcare that we're providing. That should come from the government that we're getting. We should only pay for surgeries that are elective. I mean, no, but it is a place for where we can gather. So, but I mean, I get your point. A community center has not done what needs to be done in order for us to really um to make the changes that we need that are necessary. Mr. Yvette, let me speak to you for a second, dear, because I respect you, but I also want you to understand that your policy here of pushing for reparation, you and this group of yours are the only group of people that's talking about it. If you want change, you need to start with getting rid of the Jim Crow policies that were put in place. That's the first thing. Then we also need to remove, as Lindsay was talking about, we need to remove the excessive costs that come with food, that come with getting a house, that comes with our health care. We need to remove those excessive costs so that we can live a better life. If those particulars can be removed, then we can focus on our lives. We don't need the government to do the work for us. We need them to remove certain costs. Money isn't going to solve what happened to our community for 400 years. I'm sorry, it's just not. Money does not fix emotional wounds. It doesn't fix physical wounds. It just only pays the bill. And what bill does this country need to be? What debt that is owed to us can be? And see, that's the other thing too. Lindsay, I need you to kind of help explain to me, because this group is focused on, this group would probably say, well, there is a debt that is owed to us. And that debt should have been given to us when the Emancipation Proclamation happened, but it didn't. So we're here to collect our money. So what do you say to that? Now I'm playing devil's advocate because I'm trying to get all sides of the equation here so that it's not one-sided. The United States government owes us a debt for the last 400 years that should have been paid. Oh my God. uh, I want to go back to I want to see if there is a point to this reparation agenda, because just asking for it, that doesn't necessarily mean much. I agree. I agree. I absolutely agree. I'm eating. This is my question, Miss Yvette. You have not laid out through this reparation agenda page clearly what it is that you're asking for. What is this reparation is going to be used for? Okay. Let's start with the black business. For 4 million per black person in this country. And see, that's the other thing too. Most of us don't know our ancestry. We don't know which African tribe or member that we come from. So this is hard. So that's why I'm asking Miss Carnell, Miss Yvette Carnell wants us to rah 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 get behind this idea. I mean, it's a great idea, but in terms of practicality, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. We have had 400 years. Yeah, because yeah, and I agree with you, Lindsay. But like I said, getting back to my specific policy paper and what it is that I was addressing, I actually tell you what my part, why what the state of Arkansas did in terms of policy, why this was a disaster. And I said, why is the path ineffective for individuals such as myself? I said the legislator and the governor were taking public funds from the state budget that would have otherwise be used to fund the healthcare system. Instead, they allowed the path to pay for the same kind of healthcare that would have been paid for, that the state would have been paid for, would have paid for. Sorry. It operates as an insurance company and has broad discretion regarding how the DD providers are funded according to federal and state guidelines. It is my belief that the Arkansas General Assembly did not pay much attention to the clients and their needs when creating this system. When asked when asking for assistance to fund the client's basic needs, such as hearing aids or guardrails, the MDUM of the past company often responds with a no, as the current Medicaid policy do not consider such things to be, quote, medical necessity. It is true that I have the right to appeal their decision, but who wants to suffer through that? No one. It is a hassle that no consumer or their family desire. My primary concern as a higher functioning individual who must interact with this system is the fact that support services like CES in its current form provided by DHS DDS have caused considerable anxiety for families that require assistance but are not receiving it due to shortage of direct care staff or providers who are overstepping their boundaries and their authority. Simply put, it is a mess. Such dysfunctional system, which is supposedly serving my community, but fails to meet their needs on the ground of medical necessity, is unprecedented to me. And I state this policy has been in place for 5 years and the overall result is a disaster. According to the state, the policy has been effective, but the real question is, who does it benefit? Is it the four past Medicaid funded companies or the Medicaid beneficiaries whom the state said are being served by the PATH? I think we know the answer to this question. It is the PATH who reap the benefits of this disastrous system and policy while claiming to serve individuals with disabilities and their families. The PATH lack accountability and leave those of us who are dependent upon it doomed to a never-ending cycle of harm and poor policy decisions made by these organizations. If I can say all of that, and how many sentences was this? One, two, three, four, five. If I can say in 4 different paragraphs why this is my primary concern, and I can lay out very clearly what the problem here is. This is not it. Because it's not focused on a specific policy. Reparation is not a specific policy. I'm sorry, it's not. If you're going to make this a policy, then you need to tailor it to a specific issue that reparation could help with. Now, I am very clear about the kind of changes that I want to see with with my state's Medicaid program. But I am also just as clear in recognizing that this is going to be a hustle. This is not going to be something that everybody else with whatever. Like, we're not going to be out here protesting and marching for. When was the last time you saw an entire group of black folk marching for reparation? It has never happened. When was the last time you saw Black Lives Matter on the step of Congress talking about reparation? Never. Because to be honest, like Yvette Cornett, I respect her. I do. I think it's an admirable goal. But let's be realistic. This is not going to change the trajectory of the black community. It's not. This is a much more capitalistic system. And if that capitalistic system goes under, as it had, do we need to go back to the Great Depression? Do we need to go back? Do we need to go back to the 2008 Great Recession? You are asking for the impossible. See, and this is the other thing too with Miss Yvette Cornell's issue is you want black folks to rah march on the Capitol and what? This is not an issue that is affecting our daily lives. What is this money going to be used for? Hey, Lindsay, did you ever get a chance to look at my last video of the new year where I kind of talked a little bit about why black people in general have a thing where they do not really talk about policy? And what I mean by that is they are so focused on other things like their personal lives and all of this, but they're not focused on governmental policy and changes that could really benefit us. Now, I understand the personal side of it because politics is very personal. It is very personal. But if we cannot actually make those changes, and I ask again, what has the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, what have they ever done for us? They have been This party ever since 1979. I'm sorry, 71. And they ain't done nothing yet in the last 50 years that they've been in Congress. Shit. So, Miss Yvette, baby, I understand your point. I get what you're trying to do, but baby, this ain't it. This ain't it. This is not going to actually change anything for us. It's not. We're not going to make any concrete changes because the things that we're focused on is A, trying to keep ourselves out of jail, B, trying to keep up with the trend of the economic downturn and overturns and underturns and all of that other stuff. We're also having to work 3 or 4 jobs. What specifically are you wanting to do with this reparations agenda? Because it does not specify what this is. So what are you hoping to do with this? Are you hoping to have black people come up to you and be like, oh, blah, 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 let's talk? No, 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 no. We do not need to be talking about reparation right now. We need to be talking about police brutality. We need to actually be talking about stuff that hits close to home. As Lindsay was talking about earlier, we need access to food. We need access to housing. We need access to health care and safety. All of those things we need access to. Okay? This discussion over whether or not, and we also need to start repealing um some of these Jim Crow policies that were put in place in the 1990s. I'm sorry, in the early 1900s. There are some policies that takes precedence over the rest. And this is not one of those issues that black people need to be talking about. I'm sorry. This needs to be a kitchen talk table. A kitchen table talk conversation that needs to be had between you, your family, and whoever else is interested in talking to you about this. With me, I don't need this money. This money isn't going to help my current situation. It's unrealistic to ask a community of black folk to go and march on something that's not gonna materialize, because that's not the first thing that's on our mind. In fact, let me actually pull up the chart for okay, y'all. I can't seem to find a chart which states that. Actually, let me see this. Let me go back up here a little bit. Okay. Okay. This is asking the question: the majority of Black adults think descendants of people enslaved in the U.S. should be repaid. All Black adults say, yes. 77% say yes. They should be repaid. The question becomes, which form? How should they be repaid? Where and what policy should this how? You know, this is where you need to have the conversation about the how, but we can't get there until we start to unpack a lot of the issues that Black people as a community have. Hmm. So, Lindsay, what do you think? Because as I said, I think that this is a admirable policy. But like I said before, it needs to be targeted specifically for something. Just handing out money willy nilly without knowing where it's going towards is a big unrealistic favor to be asking of the government. So you think that no cash money, just don't give us, don't put money directly in our hands. Just remove the barriers which is causing a lot of our pain. Is that your position? Is that what I'm getting? Okay. So your whole big issue with the reparation argument, especially from this group, is that is that. Yep. So don't put the money directly in our hands, but but use the money. What you're saying is, um, use the money, U.S. government, Miss U.S. government child. and lift some of the burdens that we're currently going through as a community with those funds. Don't give it to us directly. And see, and that's my other problem too. With black people, it's all about flexing how much you got when you don't have it. With somebody like me who is a little bit more sophisticated, I'm not gonna go online and brag about how much money I got. I don't need to. And yes, I grew up in a white neighborhood and all that good stuff, and I'm not bragging about that at all. But I want people to understand how white people keep their money. They're not all on the internet going, "Ooh, look at my money! Look at what I got on! Look at this and look at me! Look at." They ain't got that. They know better. When you don't have that kind of money and your ass is broke and you don't know what to do with it, child, I can't. I can't. So I grew up in a very white neighborhood with a very white we will call it some very white witch folk. The problem that Miss Yvette has is this avocation, this trying to tell the U.S. government, oh, you need to give everybody cash payment. There are other ways you can use those funds, and one of them is lifting the excessive cost that is currently being dragged upon us. Let's also not forget that the U.S. Federal Reserve, that's the bank of the United States government, that's the central bank of the United States government, had been bearing the cost down on us consumers. So if you're going to talk policy, let's talk policy all the way. Miss Yvette, I gotta be honest with you there. This is not a good idea. Reparation is not gonna change anything for us. It's not gonna prevent police brutality. It's not going to allow for us to really make a difference. Well, more like a debit card instead of a credit card. Because with a credit card, you got to pay that back. And you know, black folks don't have that kind of money to be given. Okay, makes sense. So give every descendant of slavery a debit card. Okay, so then the question becomes how much do we need to put on this debit card? And what are they going to be using this debit card for? This is a government issued debit card for reparation funds. So is this money going to be used for what? What is this money going to be used for? So clothes, anything like that. So basically, what you're saying, SSI, but for black people, or Social Security, but for black people, pretty much. Well, what's the difference? Because that's what it seems like it's given. It's I'm gonna have to get off here in a little bit. So about 5 more minutes, because my brain is telling me it's time for you to go to bed. Um, well, I mean, yes, if you have a disability or if you're elderly, then yes, that's where the SSI program comes into play. But now you see a whole lot of black folks Okay, I didn't even know that. Okay. What you're proposing is a spending limit for certain items, certain things that needs to be paid for. So clothes, uh, that you need or anything like that. Well, I'm on SSI, so that's why I was kind of preparing it to SSI because that's what it sounded like. But if you're not proposing anything like that, then what are you suggesting that it needs to be something along the lines of where there is an agreement of how much you get as a person? Because here's the other thing too. If I were to get that money, my SSI, as you well know, so for those of us that are on SSI like myself, um, because as you well know, because you worked for Social Security for 10 years, so you should know this. Any money that is outside, that is extra income outside of the income that I get from SSI, that could be that needs to be a basically it needs to be tacked on instead of it being something that is a decrease. There needs to be an increase in it. But if the policy were to stand as is for now, I wouldn't be able to get that money because the way that it works is I have to. So I guess what I'm asking is, if I were to get that money, this is what I'm asking from you. If I were to get that money, and I'm also on Medicaid as well. Medicaid and SSI kind of go hand in hand, as you well know. So if I were to accept that money, would that mean that I would need to give up SSI? There needs to be some federal. No, probably not. But given that I do have a disability, and given that I also have and I'm wheelchair bound, Medicaid as a tantrum, as something that has helped me in the past and continues to help me to this day. I'm just thinking about for those of us that are. Well, yeah, I would agree, and I'm not trying to, you know, you know what I'm saying? Like I think for a person with a disability, maybe I am, maybe I am, but I just feel like if we're gonna entertain this idea, let's kind of let's grant it. Like let's say that we do actually get that. How would that affect us as at the at for those of us that are disabled and we are descendants of slavery? Would we need Medicaid if we get a $2,000 check on a government issue card? Because if we don't, then I don't need to. Then I need but then it also leads to another. It also leads to other question. Where would I have all my support that I currently get? Caregivers, aides, all that good stuff. So those are all questions that I think. Well, I am. Well, I'm both. So yeah. There is no disabled or ODS or ODIS. There's none of that. I'm both. I'm both disabled and I guess, but I don't know. But this is all of this is saying if we were to have a particular discussion on this issue, but that's a later that's another topic for a later day because I feel like I feel like we need to be open and honest about what is realistic, which is the whole point of this live is that reparations is not something that as of this moment our community really needs to be focused on. There are other issues that our communities need to be talking about before we can even get to reparations. And one of those other issues is, as I said, the Jim Crow policy, the 1994 crime bill, the stand your ground and with regards to police brutality and excessive force. There are so many other uh, issues that we need to be focused on. And this organization, I feel that is ran by Yvette Cornell, is getting its hopes up. And rather than focus on those issues that I just laid out for all of you all, they're focusing on, oh, well, we need reparation. You're not going to get reparation if you don't address the other policies before reparation can even be had. And that's how I feel about it. And that's my whole thing. Reparation is not going to come until you're able to address those other policies. You need to address the Supreme Court's decision to gut parts of the Civil Rights Act. You need to address the oh Lord. You need to address the other part of that the other part of this conversation. So we can talk about reparation till we're blue in the face, but if we don't have any policies that we can actually concrete get around to, then this is a moot point, like Lindsay said earlier. This reparation discussion is a moot point until we can address those other issues. This is not gonna go anywhere. And I feel bad for saying that, but it's not. So we need to be honest about that. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all so much. I am about to go ahead and get off this damn thing. And you all have the rest of your best day, okay? And I will see y'all on a later date.